Now, what do you think these little things are for? I wonder. Good morning, everybody. It's Stephen here for Bland Designs, and this is vlog number 127 for Monday, August the 5th, 2019. Hard to believe we're into August now, but we are. So, what's behind me? Well, I finished my next quilt that I'm putting into the quilt show. You have seen this in bits and pieces before, but now it's completely done. It's bound, it's quilted, and it's called the Starburst pattern. And this is an Angela Walters pattern. If you know who Angela Walters is, she's sort of the guru of quilting. And I love her patterns. They're usually pretty simple to make, but are very stunning. Now, this is a really large quilt. I can't get it all in this shot. So this is the top. So what I'm going to do, if I don't pull my mic off, I'm going to try to pull it up so you can see why it's called the Starburst. And I pulled my mic off. Okay, sorry for the noise. This is very awkward. But if you look down, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this. Okay, you see this star motif that's coming out here? That's near the bottom of the quilt and off to the bottom right hand corner, and then all the other lines come out from that. This is completely made up of what are called 5-inch squares or charm pack, a couple of charm packs, and I used a gradient material, or gradient material, so you get those colors blending across. It was a lot of fun to make, even though half square triangles can be tedious. Because you kept changing colors, this was actually pretty neat. So I'm very proud of it. It's all quilted. Probably it's sort of a curly Q kind of quilting. I did that on the long arm. Not free motion. No, I'm not up to free motion yet. Taking a class in September for that, but that's done with a pantograph, as I told you, just basically tracing a pattern. But it comes out really nice. Oh, I should show you the back. And this is what the back looks like. And again, that's sort of that gradiated fabric. It's by Northcott. It's called Stonehenge, and I really like it. So I'm proud of this one. And now that gives me 4 quilts to show in the quilt show in November. And of course, only one of them is actually being judged. These ones are just on display, at least as far as I know right now. That's what I think is happening. And I showed you the one that is the challenge that has the butterflies and that on it. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see, you know, what kind of reaction I get to my quilts. I'm sure there's going to be some beautiful ones in that quilt show, though. A lot of very talented people, and I'm still just a beginner. So, well, should I call myself a beginner? Maybe I'm kind of intermediate now. I may have progressed, but there's still lots to learn and many quilts more to sew. So moving on, YouTube channel of the week. Here it is. If you're interested in checking out different consumers affairs types of programs, then I highly recommend this YouTube channel. It's the CBC News, which is the major Canadian news network's program that usually comes on TV on Sunday nights called Marketplace. I've been following their YouTube videos for quite a while now. In fact, it's almost become something that I do on a regular basis on a Sunday evening, and I find them very informative. They tell you about scams, they tell you about fees that you shouldn't be paying, they talk about parking fines, they talk about food quality, restaurant inspections, everything across the board. It's all very thoroughly investigated and all very, very interesting, and I think it is something that most people would find of use. So if you're interested in what goes on behind the scenes in consumer affairs, then check out Marketplace. So I find that website very useful. I enjoy the programming. I almost find it cathartic because they talk about things that we might be complaining about on an everyday basis, and it gives us a sense that maybe there is somebody out there fighting for the consumer's rights. But anyways, we watch it pretty much every Sunday night. Now, mind you, some of the shows on it are 4 to 2 years old, but still very informative. So check that out if you're interested. The link is in the show notes below, as is the link for Stephen and Walter Live, the current one. We talked about our healthcare system and talked about healthcare systems in the States and in the UK especially, and Finland. So if you didn't catch that, the link's below. And what else is below? The book of the week is below too, and of course there is a listing for my blog. My blog right now principally just looks at my finished quilts. And I know some of you have gone to it and checked it out. Please feel free to leave comments. You can there as well. And you can also leave me comments, I believe, in the section on YouTube called Community. I've posted a couple of things there, nothing too serious, just to see whether or not this is another avenue where I can stay in touch with you. Okay, so let's have a little coffee and then get into what's pissing me off this week. Well, I just mentioned Marketplace, YouTube, and about how I think it's sort of cathartic for consumers. Well, there's other things that we've all experienced, I'm sure, when we buy something either online or in a store. They all seem to be into these surveys now. You know, you get your Walmart receipt and it says, hey, you can win a $1,000 gift certificate from Walmart by, going to this website and filling out the survey. And I have to admit, I have done those on occasion. I've never won anything. I think your odds are worse on winning something from those than it is on a giant lottery. But either way, the company seems to be interested in how they're doing, and this is just not Walmart, but any company that has a survey, and they want your feedback. Well, do they? Do they really want your feedback? Some of those surveys are really long, but they are purposely biased. If you look at the questions they ask you, they lean towards you giving a fairly favorable impression because the way they're worded does not allow you to make a criticism. I'm going to cough, excuse me. So, it makes you think, well, this is just phony baloney here, and they're not taking things seriously. Now, I want to talk to you. What got me thinking about this is what happened to me earlier this week. And this goes back to my internet, television, telephone provider, Bell Canada. Okay? In Canada, we do not have a lot of choice of providers of those services. We have Bell, we have Rogers, and that's principally about it. They're the biggies. So needless to say, they don't have a lot of competition, and when you don't have a lot of competition, then you can get away with whatever you want to get away with. And Bell is certainly one of those companies that does that. Now, Bell's service, I have to be fair and say that Bell's service has gotten better over the years. I used to be with Rogers many, many years ago. Hated their service. Their customer service was completely useless. Now, they may have improved since I left them, but I left them, going on now over 20 years ago. I'd always been with Bell. At one point in our history, when I was a kid, basically if you wanted telephone service, Bell was the only company you could get it from. Rogers didn't really, weren't in the telephone business at the time. But that's all changed, of course. So I needed to do something. And I mentioned this yesterday on Stephen and Walter Live, that my mother got moved to a new room in the nursing home. Well, with that, I had to move her phone and her television service to the new room. Now, this is a fairly simple thing. You'd think it would be simple. So, of course, I called up Bell. First of all, I went into chat mode. I've talked about why I like chat mode over calling them. I'm not going to get into that right now. But anyways, contacted them, went through a whole lot of rigmarole just to make a simple move, but got it all done. When they sent me my confirmation as to the service that was happening, I noticed there was a wrong address. So I thought, well, I better give them a call and get that straightened around, or they're going to show up someplace where they shouldn't. So I did. I got a very rude service agent on the other end. Rude, not in that he was calling me names or anything, but he would not let me explain what the problem was. He was sort of anticipating what I was going to say next, and he was wrong. And then he had to give me long, verbose explanations for everything on the step of the way. And it was information that I did not need to know. Okay? All I wanted to do was correct the error. And then after going through all of this, I got told by the guy, oh yeah, well, they had the right stuff at their end. Don't worry about the email, which I did worry about the email because I didn't trust that. Anyways, long story short there, the service was done. It was over with. So I get an email from Bell to fill out a survey about my recent experience with their agents. Okay, I took the opportunity. There was a place in the form, well, basically I checked off all the boxes that said I wasn't satisfied. Okay, and there's one box where you could write in limited number of characters, but you could write in why you weren't happy. So basically I told him exactly what the situation was, what happened to me. Done with it. Okay, didn't expect anything would come of it. Well, and usually that's what pisses me off about these surveys. It's wasting your time. They really don't care. The only surveys they want are the ones that are going to put their stats up on the positive side. Anything that's negative, I think they just simply dismiss. Simple as that. Well, Bell, and now I'm not that pissed off, okay? That's what usually pisses me off. So there is a different ending to this story, a more positive ending. So on Saturday, I get a phone call from a representative from Bell. Now, at first I thought they were going to try to sell me a package, as they're always calling you to upgrade your system, okay? So I was simply prepared with my standard answer. Hi, thanks for your call. I'm not interested. Bye-bye. Drop dead. Hello. Well, no. This was somebody following up on my survey. Ooh, that's new. So the person said, very apologetic, we are so sorry you weren't happy with your service. Can I ask you more about it, your experience? So I explained in lengthy detail exactly what took place with the rude agent. And the person on the other end of the line listened patiently, did not cut me off at any point, did not make excuses for this individual, nothing like that. At the end of it all says, we are so sorry that you experienced this. We're trying to, we want to do the best for our customers, and you're a long-time loyal customer, buttering me up a little bit, I guess. And they wanted to compensate me for the problem. Whoa. That one just about knocked me off my chair. They want to compensate me. Those are not words that I hear from companies very often, if ever. So actually, I really didn't know what to say. In fact, in some ways, I felt a little guilty. I'm thinking, oh, geez, I wasn't looking to get something here for nothing or anything. But I decided to keep my mouth shut and just listen to what they offered. So she had to check on something. Off she went, put me on hold for a couple of minutes, came back and said, okay, so they were going to give me credit to my bill, $22. How they come up with that number, I don't know, but it's $22 that I don't give to them. So I said, great. They said that would be coming off my next bill. And they'd be sending me an email about that. Actually, they never sent me an email about that. But I did go into my account after I got off the phone, and they had done it automatically. There's the credit, $22 coming off my next bill. So here is an example of where they actually did read my feedback. Maybe because I checked off all the boxes that said they sucked. Maybe that's what did it. I don't know. Or they genuinely truly are trying to improve their customer relationship. Customer relationships, you've heard me say this before about other consumer things, is very important, I think, to a business, no matter how large or how small. If you have happy customers, you have a good business. They're going to give you repeat business and recommend you to other people. So I thought that was a positive. So I'm not pissed off at that. Pissed off at doing surveys, but then again, squeaky wheel gets the oil, I guess. I don't know. So that's what happened this week. So pissed off at surveys, but I'm kind of happy that finally somebody took one of the surveys seriously. Okay, so moving on. New product. Yes, I had ordered these not that long ago. Cricut just came out with these. You saw it in the teaser at the beginning. These are called adaptive tools. I know you can't see these. There are 4 of them that I bought. Are they cheap? Well, they're not that bad. These are for the Cricut Maker, okay? And when they first came out with the Cricut Maker, they kept toting this thing about, well, they started with the rotary blade, but they called it the adaptive tool system, meaning that they were going to develop other interchangeable tools that would do different things using your Cricut. So I got the 4 latest ones. They're all in my hand here. I know you can't see them, but there's not much to see. But what I got was the engraving tip, the debossing tip, the wavy wheel, cutting wheel tip, and what's the last one? Maybe a debossing, engraving, the perforation tool. And I'm just going to show you, I played around with them a little bit, what they do. Let's start with the embossing tool. Now this is going to be difficult to see. Basically, the debossing tool does what it says. It debosses. It presses your image into whatever you are cutting. This is a piece of Cricut poster board that I put this in, and just so this would show up better on the camera, I lightly went over it with some dark ink so you can see the lines. But it does a pretty good job. So, you know, if you've got one of those, or if you've got embossing folders, this kind of thing, this is what this does. And that's kind of neat. And it'll do it in a variety of materials. It'll do it in like thin metals. It'll do it on thicker chipboard, things like that. You'd have to experiment with these things, but they do give you a guide as to what each tool will work with. So I was impressed by that. Then they have what they call, and this will be very difficult to see, this is called the engraving tool. And on this piece of acetate, hold it up there, I think you can probably see it. See the butterflies and the flowers? I did that with the engraving tool, and that's pretty cool. In fact, this piece that I have here is going on eventually onto the project that I'm going to introduce later in the vlog today. So I was kind of impressed with that as well. That engraving tool apparently will also engrave on like plastic. It's going to have to be fairly thin plastic to get it in underneath the rollers, and I haven't tried that yet. But into some other, I think into very thin veneer, woody kind of stuff, that kind of thing. So that's kind of cool. The other, so that was the engraving tool. Then they have the wavy cut tool, and I just did a simple star, but you can see around the edges how that's all cut wavy. So that's just kind of fun. That's something a little different. So yeah, it worked fine with that. And then the last tool is the perforation tool. So it will draw a line or a shape or whatever and put, the little dots into your paper so that you can, like ticket stubs, you want to rip them across or anything like that. So I did it on a star, and I put a pentagon in the middle, and you can see right here, it's perforated, and I just got it started so you can see that, but I did it all the way around. Sort of like press outs, and that piece will come right off just like that. Now, you might ask, why would you use that? Well, they have some kind of cool cards that are available on their site that you can use that with. But I'm thinking more if you needed to make up your own set of, say, tickets for an event where you need half of it, say for a draw, you can easily set this up so it'll draw that perforation line across your ticket. So you rip. There's a stub, customer has the other half, and I'm sure you can think of other things to do with perforations as well. So, will I use these tools a lot? Probably not, but you know me, if it's new, it's for something I already have, if it completes the set, I have to have it. So it just says, though, that Cricut is constantly developing this adaptive tool system, and people are speculating because each of these have a number on them, but the numbers vary from 1 to 40 something. And these 4 tools are not in sequential order. So you're wondering, or everybody's starting to speculate, if there's like numbers up to about 40 something, does that mean that eventually there'll be 40 different tools for the Cricut? I can't think of 40 different tools that they could put on the Cricut. So I don't think that is going to happen. But we'll see what other things they have up their sleeve for this as well. So if you don't have a Cricut, or if you're thinking of buying a Cricut, Yes, the Cricut Maker is the most expensive of their machines. It's not that much more than a Cricut Explore Air or whatever. But really, if you want to get the most bang for your buck, if you're investing in a machine like this in the first place, I recommend that you go with the Cricut Maker so you can use the adaptive tool system, because these do not work, apparently, on the Explorer series. So they say. Okay, so that was something new that I bought this week. All right, moving on. What's next? Book review. Okay, another oldie but goodie, and this is another one of those techniques that were very popular at one point in time and then sort of just died. Now, we are Memory Keepers, the company that makes all the different little boards and things, you know, the envelope punch board, the alphabet punch board, you know, banner punch board, all those kind of things. A year or so ago, they had another board they came out with. It was using wire to write your name or do different embellishments and things like that. They've made it sound like that's a new technique. It is not a new technique. When I first got into scrapbooking, using wire as embellishment on your scrapbook pages was all the rage. And there was another, you could buy a wire writer, I think they called it. I can't remember if that was the name. It basically looked like a pen. It has a spool on the end. You bought spools of this wire, very thin gauge wire, and it ran down, you threaded it through, and then you had a pegboard, and you could use this tool to manipulate the wire around the posts of the pegboard to create whatever shapes you wanted to do. I had that. I think I got rid of it. I haven't used it in years. And this book, Just Add Wire, basically shows you how to do or how to add wire to whatever you're making. Now again, this is 20 years ago that we were doing this. Let's jump it up into now, this time period. And the wire right now, I think, would be excellent elements to work with in your mixed media projects. You still do it on cards, you can still do it in scrapbooks, but I think now with mixed media, this really lends itself to that. Back when this book probably first came out, people weren't doing a lot of mixed media. They were concentrating on the scrapbook. So, of course, this talks about things you need to know about wire, getting what you need to work with it. It has little templates like this that you can actually lay your wire down on top of and follow to, you know, there's lots of them in there with instructions. Basically, that's what this whole book is, even an alphabet set that you can do in wire. So, templates for creating wire creations are in this book. Now, who's this book by? This book is by Kristi, Dailey. And what did it cost me? I have no idea what I paid for it. But, yes, you can get it. It's still available. Just let me look here. You can get it on, not Amazon, but eBay. eBay for $10.99 US plus $6.80 for shipping. So if you're in the US, it's going to cost you about $18 for it. If you're in Canada, then you'd have to do the exchange rate on it. Is it available in other spots? It might be. I couldn't find them. I even went to the website of the company that supposedly published this book, and I could not find this particular book. So it must be out of print. But if you're thinking about adding wire to some of your creations and you're not so sure about how to bend the wire to get the desired shape, this book might be something you might want to look into. Okay, so that was Book of the Week, and that takes us to, turn the page over, that takes us to, this week we're starting a new series in the iCraft projects. Going to be making over the next couple of weeks this one, the Shadow Box album. And that's what it looks like right there. So this week I'm going to take it out of the box and show you how to assemble it. So today I'm going to put together the basic assembly of this craft from iCraft called the Shadow Box album. And there's a little closer look at this kind of thing. It's kind of cute. It's got sort of a shadow box for the cover, and there's one on the back, and then it has pages on the inside, and the back shows you what it might look like when you get it together. It only has 11 pieces, and 8 of those are inside pages, which are fairly straightforward. Again, the diagram on the back, although it has all of these markings as the inches, not all that helpful. But there are instructions, as it says in this one, inside. So let's take a look at those instructions and see how clear they are. Okay, again, one of the faults I have with the iCraft kits when they do come with instructions, one of my faults is that they don't often come with instructions, not every kit has them, is that they have done them using craft paper, which is what comes in the box. And in fact, in the box you get 2 colors, so you can make 2 of these albums, which is one of the pluses of the iCraft kits, is that you can usually make 2 to 3 separate projects out of one kit for one price, which is pretty good. They come with craft in this one, and they do come with black as well. Problem here is that they have photographed the craft, and you cannot see clearly because the photos themselves do not have much of a contrast in them, and you really can't see where score lines are or how to put things together. These are not that clear, and I have said that before about other iCraft kits. So of course I went to their website, or their YouTube channel, sorry, to see if they had a video on this one, and they do not. Thus, one of the reasons why I'm making this video. Okay, so let's get the parts laid out. So I have the craft set here, but I am going to show you the black set because I put the black one together. I like the fact that they come with more than one set in a kit, because one I look at as practice for figuring this out, since the instructions are not very clear, and especially when they don't have a YouTube tutorial for it. So there are supposed to be 8 of these, which are basically pages, and they have a score line, and I know that's probably difficult for you to see on this camera because again it's on craft, but there is a score line, which is the hinge at the top of those. Then they come with 3 other pieces. 2 of them are exactly the same. One is for the cover piece and one is for the back piece, and both these pieces are put together exactly the same way. And then there's another piece which they call the connector, which all these attach to. Now of course everything has score lines on it, which makes it much easier. So this is where this video is maybe going to be a little bit confusing, and I apologize for that, because I did, as I mentioned, put together one of these in advance to see how it goes together, and I did struggle with it. I struggled with it not so much in the actual assembly, but in the way that things are attached. You can see that we have the first cover, and I marked it cover 1, and I do that with the pieces. These are going to get covered up anyways with decorative paper, so I'm not worried about writing on them, but it just keeps the parts clear. I do this with all the kits now when I put them together. Some have more pieces than others. This one, not so many pieces. So you could probably get away without having to put a label on it, but I did anyways. So this is cover 1, and you can see it's recessed, and that's your shadow box effect, which according to their package you can do some very decorative things with this. And just keep in mind that these tags and these other embellishments do not come with the kit. So when you open it up inside, you have your real estate. Now, don't look too closely at this. I had some problems when I attached this because it's in black. It's very difficult. You need really, really bright light in order to see where to line things up. But that's the cover, and then there's these pages, and it does lay flat, which is nice. So 8 pages, so basically 16 pages because they're double-sided. And then the back cover, now I have this upside down. It doesn't matter which way you put it. I wrote this on here before I assembled the box. And this one is the back page. And another little shadow recess in here, and it folds up like this. Now one of the things I don't like is this piece. This is an overhanging piece, which at first I thought maybe I should have put it the other way, but I looked at their diagram. Again, I had to study the finer points of this, and if you look, and you won't be able to see this on camera, I'm pretty sure I could barely see it, but to figure out which way this went on, I saw that there was a line which matches up with this line. But if you looked at the step before it, they're showing you putting it face down. So the open part goes onto the inside of the booklet, which does make sense. However, what doesn't make sense is why this flap they've cut longer. So I have this little recess. I mean, it's not a big deal, but I think they should have made that flap just a little shorter. Now, what I might do when I put together the craft one is actually cut a little bit off of this so it's flush with the edges. So there you have it. So there's a lot of surface on here to decorate. So that's why I have not yet put together the craft version of this. The reason being is I want to pre-cut my background papers and put them on before I fold it all together. Now let's just talk a little bit about the folding, because this was the part that I found somewhat confusing. So first of all, they recommend in the instructions that you put together the cover pieces, and both of these are identical. Now I know it's very difficult on camera to see, but there are score lines, 4 of them, on each of these flaps and another 4 on these flaps, and they have these little points which don't make a lot of sense, okay? Because they don't have a score line. I don't know if you're supposed to fold them in. I didn't. But essentially the way this goes together, and this took a little bit of trial and error, is you take one of these sides, the longer side, and you fold it along the score lines. Now, one of the things I found with the score lines is that they are not scored all that deeply. So you might want to take a ruler and a bone folder and just line it up on the score line if you can see it. And you know what might help for this visually, at least it will for me, is if I grab a pencil. Hope that one's got a lead in it. And I'm just going to mark with my pencil the edge of each of these score lines. And actually, I'm going to do the same thing to this side. I am not going to assemble this completely because, as I said, I want to put in my decorative papers before I fold this up. But I want to illustrate how this goes together, because this was the part that was probably the most tricky. It's not that hard. Like I said, score lines are difficult to see, so I've put those pencil marks on there so I can line up my straight edge with each one, and I'm just going to give them a little extra scoring just to make it a little deeper, because I find that they didn't fold all that well. When you're putting kits like this together, one of the essential tools, or what I feel is an essential tool, is a bone folder, a good bone folder. This is a Teflon bone folder, which I use a Teflon one because on some of your darker papers like black, when you go to score, you might end up making, or even to varnish things, you might make the paper go a little bit shiny, and this is supposed to avoid that problem. Okay, so I've scored them a little bit better. Let's move that over to the side, and now I should be able to fold these along the score lines with a little bit more ease. And I'm going to use the bone folder, and I do suggest you take your time and crease each of these folds very well. Get a very crisp crease in it. It will make your life easier if you take the time now to do that. Okay, and I'm just going to go to this end piece right now and do the same thing. Again, making sure I give each fold line a good varnishing. Now, see, this one went a little crooked on me, and that can happen. It's only slight. You can adjust it, but do watch for that, because it will give you grief if these are not perfectly straight. Okay, now In the instructions, let me show you this. This is something I find with this kit that's a bit of a problem. They show, I'm just going to try and get the lighting a little bit more. Okay. So they show that you fold these over. Take cover 1 and fold it according to the creasing. Again, broken English. Lock the edges as shown. Lock the edges. Well, they really don't lock, and it doesn't suggest here that about putting any kind of adhesive, any glue, any two-sided tape anywhere. So what I found was the easiest. I tried glue, but here's what's happening. You're bringing this one over here so that it kind of sits up like this, and you're bringing this one here, and you're folding that one back under, so you've got this like rectangle. I'll see if I can show you on the camera. It's difficult to hold it up, but you see you've got that on the inside. And this piece, fold it the same way, but you have to line up these corners. Well, the corners don't stay together very well. So what I found is on this outside fold, okay, so if you've got your lines all folded up and scored, lay it out flat, and on the outside, so flip it over, and on this outside score line here, this very outside edge, put your two-sided tape down here or your glue. I found two-sided tape worked a little better than the glue. Mind you, the glue does give you a bit of wiggle room. So if you don't mind standing here and holding it for a few minutes until the glue sets, then that's fine. Use glue. But I just put a strip of tape right along this edge, double-sided, and I used a 1/2 inch. Throughout this project I used 2 sizes of double-sided tape. I used 1/2 inch and I used 1/4 inch. And it's pretty obvious which you will use where when you get this together. So let's put that, just to say I've got that glued down, and then so you see the tape will go underneath that flap. That's right here. And this is why you have to make sure your score lines are straight. Otherwise, this is not going to fold very well underneath. The same with this end piece. And then it says to lock them in. Well, I'm not sure what the lock them in is. Now, maybe that little V part, no, that little V part gets closed in under there. But there you go. You have sort of a mitered corner. But it will have a gap up here. So the way I solved that gap, and let me get the black one to show you. Here's what we're putting together, the front cover, and you can see the mitered corners. What I did was I took a little piece, and it's coming off, doesn't stick well. I put a little piece of, I don't know if you can see that, tape just over the corner to secure it, to hold it in. Now, I'm not worried about this, how well that shows up, because I'm going to be covering this. I don't know with what yet, but I'm going to be covering that. So it just gives the corner a little bit more strength. I don't depend upon this trying to hold everything together, because I don't think it does. And there's no real place in here where you can glue it. Well, you might be able to put a little glue under that edge and hold it there. That might work. But you still have this gap up here. So it doesn't go together perfectly. You've got to do a little bit of fudging around with it. Now, when it comes to the pages, you will do the same thing to the back cover as well. Set those aside. You have this connector piece, is what it's called. And what I suggest is that you don't fold this at first. Leave it flat, okay? And then each one of these pages has a little score line right along the edge here. I don't know if you can see it. Again, I don't suggest that you fold this yet. Use your score line as a placement for your double-sided tape or your glue. And you just put your tape right along the edge or your glue with that.
And as I said, I want to cut my decorative papers and put them on first before I do this. But just to show you, the first score line, it doesn't matter which way this goes as long as it's long ways. You have these two flaps. And just simply, and I'm not taking this off, but I will fold this over, flip it over, and with the top score line, simply line that up. Now I haven't got it actually glued along that edge of that score line. Don't go over it, because this you want to be able to fold. Then carefully fold your page back, and of course I don't have it glued here right now, but let's pretend it was glued. And then that's in the right spot. Then your next page, put your tape on it, and then just butt up that edge with the edge of the first page you put down. And again, then fold it over, and keep doing that with all 8 pages. And what will happen is, when you get that all together, you will have this effect. Simple as that. And there is enough space for all 8 pages to go neatly in this. Now, you'll notice on this one I got a little crooked here, so this is where I had to fudge it. But this is because I tried several different ways of lining those pages up. And the method I just showed you with the craft is the one that I found worked the best. I didn't do that with all of these, and so some of these are a little crooked, and you don't want them to be crooked. You want to try to keep them in alignment as best as you can. If they go off a little bit, you can sort of refold and score very carefully to get it squared up. But when you're done, let me move a few things out of the way. This will be what you'll have at the end. So then it comes to decorating it. Now my plan is to do what I often do, is I'm going to take the measurements for each of these pieces and cut them out on my Cricut machine and then place them. So in the next segment of this video, I'll be showing you how I put in the background papers and how I assemble the whole thing with the background papers on it. So you will see me actually assemble this part. Okay, so you just have to be patient for that. So I hope that's as clear as mud. I think it's a little bit more clear than their instructions and their lack of a YouTube video for this. So stay tuned for the next segment. That's what will come to next.
So next week I'll go on to the covering the pages with background paper and that kind of thing. So that'll be in the next segment. Okay, so events in the past week. Well, I need to talk about my mother again. So what's new with my mom? So I got a call, I already alluded to this earlier, from the nursing home, and they wanted to make a room change for my mother. Now my mother hadn't requested a room change, but I guess apparently they have one resident who needs to be in a room that is closest to the nurse's station for whatever reason. So they were very apologetic about this, but basically they needed to do this for the sake of this other person. And you know, my mother kind of wasn't happy with her roommate that she had right now, because her roommate's is 98 years old and has dementia, keeps my mother up all the time and this kind of thing. And apparently the new room, the lady that's in there that she'd be sharing with, is very quiet and very nice, and my mother knows who she is because same floor and she's talked to her before. So my mother was agreeable to this, so they were letting me know they were going to do that. Okay, fine. If mom's happy with it, I'm happy with it, that's fine. No problem. They did say, as a little perk for doing this, they've moved my mother to the top of the list for a private room. She's been on the waiting list for a private room since the day she got into this place, but they don't have that many private rooms. They only have about 9 of them. So, you know, a room becomes available when, well, you fill in the blank. You know what I mean. Somebody's got to kick the bucket to make the room available. So anyways, that was nice. She's at the top of the list for that. So I had to make the arrangements, though, to move her services, her television, her telephone, into the new room. And I've already talked about in the segment on what's pissing me off about what I went through with my service provider for that kind of thing. That was all supposed to take place on Saturday. She was moving into the new room sometime Friday afternoon. On Saturday, they were coming to move her services. So we decided to go over and just make sure that the move had happened okay, that her stuff was, organized and whatnot, and that the services had been installed. Now, I did fully anticipate that when I got there, I was going to find a lot of her stuff sitting in a corner that the staff hadn't got around to putting up on the walls and putting away. Because that did happen the last time she moved a room. But when we got there, I was pleasantly surprised. Everything was set up. Great. My mother's sitting there watching TV, so the TV's working fine. We tested her phone. The phone's working fine. It's great. The room's a little smaller than what she was in before, but the lady in this room does seem definitely quieter. She may want to move herself out of there once she gets in with my mother. But anyways, it's nice and bright, this room. It's got a couple of windows. Well, her other room had a window too, but my mother's right on the side where the windows are, and it's a southern exposure. And so I'm thinking of getting her a couple of succulents for her birthday to put on the windowsill, because she now has like a windowsill that's fairly wide that you could decorate a little bit. So that's what I'm thinking. Why succulents, you might say? My mother doesn't water anything, and the staff there are really get way too busy to worry about everybody's plants. So, you get crispy plants. I figure if I get her a succulent, then, I'll water it when we're over there to visit her every now and then, and they're green. The evil streak in me thought of getting her a couple of cactuses. Yeah. Ouch. But no, not going to do that to my mother. Okay. So, yeah. So the move went along quite nicely. But the week before, well, earlier in the week, actually, when we went over for our usual visit on a Tuesday, I'm talking to my mother, and I said to her, by the way, how are your teeth feeling? Because she was having a problem with those dentures, And I'd already put a call into the denturist, that to come out and readjust her teeth. She goes, she gets a little sarcastic, opens her mouth and says, "Do you see them?" Her teeth aren't in. And I said, "What? You haven't got them in? You still having trouble getting those bottom ones in?" And she goes, "Well, no." She says, "They're gone." I said, "What do you mean they're gone?" She says, "Well, I did something that was a little stupid." Okay, when my mother starts off with something like this, what she did, yes, is going to annoy the hell out of me, but she had a plan. Okay, my mother's a passive aggressive, all right? So I said, "So what?" She says, "Well, we went down to lunch on Friday." Now, this is Tuesday, so the Friday before. And my teeth were rubbing. So I took out my bottom ones and I wrapped them up in the serviette and just put them on the table. And then when they took me back to my room, after lunch was over, I realized that I didn't have my teeth with me, that I had left them on the table. I said, "So you told somebody about this?" "Oh, yeah, she did." And they went down and looking for them. But the tables had all been cleaned off. And so they went in and they asked the kitchen staff, and the kitchen staff hadn't seen them. Right. Good. So we don't know where they are. No, we don't know where they are. Now, my mother says that in that kind of voice. "No, not sure where they're gone." When she starts talking like that, means that she's afraid I'm going to jump down her throat. I mean, I'm not proud of it, but I have done that on a few occasions, mostly out of frustration. I'm better now. I said to her, "Well, okay, maybe they got into the laundry. They change the tablecloths, they roll them up, and they go down to the laundry. It's very possible they got rolled up in that." And I said, "Did you ask them to call down to the laundry?" "Oh, yeah, she did." I said, "Well, let me go out and talk to the staff that's at the nurse's station." So I went out, and there was Nicole. Nicole's wonderful. I've dealt with Nicole before. She's very businesslike, but she is right on top of things. And, Thing I like about her too is, and my mother doesn't really like her, is because she's very direct. And yeah, I appreciate that kind of thing. Let's get down to business. Let's look after this kind of thing. Let's not make excuses. So I asked her, and she goes, yeah, that didn't happen on Friday. She says, that was this morning. We noticed she didn't have her teeth. And she said, that's when she kind of said she'd left them. So that begs the question, is my mother forgetting things? Does she get her times mixed up, her dates mixed up, what? Or is my mother playing a game here? Okay. So she says, Nicole says she'd called down to the laundry because they hadn't checked there yet. They checked with the kitchen staff and they didn't have them. So I went back into the room. Now I knew what she was going to find. Those teeth got thrown out. My mother disguised them. She wrapped them up in a serviette. All right, she didn't just set them on a serviette beside her at the table. She wrapped them up. And when they're all done their lunch and they're taken back up to their rooms, to their floors, the cleaning staff comes in, just takes their arm and just sweeps off everything into a garbage can. Of course, they're not going to go through, and I wouldn't expect them to, through everybody's grubby serviette. You don't know what you're going to find in those things, right? Teeth might be the least of it. They just in the garbage. Of course they do. So once something's in the garbage, it's in the garbage. It's gone. Bye-bye. So I said that to my mother. And she goes, oh. And she goes silent. And when my mother goes silent, doesn't give you any more information, it means that's it. She's leaving the ball in my park to solve it. Now, I know she doesn't like those bottom teeth. And it wouldn't matter how many times the denturist came out and filed them down or did whatever they did to adjust them, she doesn't want to wear them. If my mother doesn't want something, then wild horses won't change her mind. And she's evil enough, clever enough, scheming enough to get rid of those things she doesn't want. I've seen it before. I think she purposely did this, hoping they would get thrown out. Because it's funny. I would have got a call from the home as soon as they found out the teeth were gone and they couldn't find them. If this happened on the Friday and this is now the Tuesday, I never got a call. And she didn't even bring it up to me if I had not turned around and asked her how her teeth were feeling. So this just makes me think this is a scheme. So I said to her, well, Mom, I'll call the dentures up and see how much it costs to replace those. And I knew it's going to cost a lot. And I'm going to ask them about insurance, whether they have an insurance we can buy against loss. I didn't think there was, but I thought I'd ask about that. And it's probably astronomical, but I thought I'd see. But I said to her, but the bottom line, Mom, is this. Basically, you don't want to wear them because you don't like them. Well, maybe. Okay. So I said, just leave it with me. I said, you'll survive this. I mean, you didn't have dentures for the longest time and you didn't have any problems. So, and this was her idea to get them. Okay. She told me she thought maybe she should have them. But this is often the way with my mother. She will say she thinks she needs to have this or that. You go out, you make arrangements, you get it for her, and then she doesn't use it. And this has happened over the years in many, many different ways. So nothing surprising there. So when I got home, I phoned the denturist, asked about it. Yeah, to get replacement bottom dentures, $1,850. And nope, there isn't any insurance policies. So I just put it all on hold. On Saturday when we were over, I said to Mom, told her what I found. And I said, if you want me to order you new teeth, I will do it. But Mom, here's the situation. My mother's paying for these, okay? It's not me that's paying for it. She is. She has enough money to keep her in the home for the rest of her life and comfortable. But she does not have that much money. And for something that might just go in the garbage again, that's a waste. That's a waste. So I basically laid the cards on the table for her and said that. And so her decision right now is she will just manage with the top ones, not worry about the bottom ones. She has a few teeth left. Not many. Not in that great shape. But I said, okay, well, if down the road you decide, no, you need to have those or whatever, then we'll look into that again. This is just typical. Welcome to my hell. All I do is put out fires for my mother all the time. And I'll tell you this. She's my mother. I feel I have to do these things. I can't leave my mother high and dry. But after a while, things like this, although they're kind of little things, the little things add up, right? And start to eat away at you. But anyways, so that's the story of my mother this week. Sorry to bore you with it. And what else was up on this past weekend? Well, right now, as I make this August the 5th, Monday, this is considered a holiday here in Ontario and in other spots across Canada. I'm not sure if every province has this holiday in the first weekend in August or not. We call it the civic holiday, and I mentioned that last week in the vlog. But anyways, it's a holiday. But, you know, when you're retired, every weekend's a long weekend. And we didn't do anything that exciting over the weekend. Went out and bought some groceries. Yay! That was a thrill. And that was about it. So what's coming up? Nothing. Nope. Walter's getting a little antsy. Like to go on a little bit of a vacation again. I mean, we haven't been away since end of March, April. Yeah, I know. Cry me a river. Here's the little violin. Whatever. Over it. But we could go to Japan in October. There's a cruise, and it's got some great perks to Japan. And Walter kind of looked into what flight would cost. Flights aren't too bad, about $1,600 or something. But it's around the 1st of October. And we've also been looking at river cruises. Now, they wouldn't happen until next spring, around April, May, that kind of thing. They're very expensive, river cruises. But I think we've decided that we'd rather not spend the money right now to do a cruise to Japan. We'd rather look into doing a river cruise. Because we've been on large cruises before, but what I'm hearing and what I'm seeing on YouTube and some other people I know that have been on river cruises, they all sing the praises of them. They're smaller boats, very luxurious accommodation on them. All your excursions are included, and, you know, very nice scenery. You know, you're sitting on the boat and you're on a river kind of a thing, and, you know, winding around the Danube or something like that. So I guess we've decided we do want to go to Japan at some point in time, but maybe not right now. Save our pennies. So in April, we could do a river cruise. And when I say save pennies, I mean we'd have to pay for it now because they want the money up front. And the river cruises do fill up very fast. So Walter's gone into travel agent mode, and he's doing the research, and I just sit back and wait to be told what we're doing. And that's okay by me. He likes doing this kind of research. I do not. And we have the similar tastes and everything, so I'm sure whatever he decides will work out fine with me. Okay? So that's down the road, quite a road. And nothing else coming up right now, currently. So we'll see. Yeah, so I guess that's the end of the vlog for this week. So I hope you have a great week. Tune in to Stephen and Walter on Sunday at 4 p.m. Don't know what our topic's going to be this week. If you have any ideas, if you're a regular who watches Stephen and Walter live, then drop me a comment below this or send me an email. My email address is always at the end of my vlogs of a topic you think we should discuss on Stephen and Walter live. We'd appreciate the input. Okay, have a good one. Bye-bye.